going to fit into the section on the Constitution. So, all right, you got politics, economics, and then social or constitutional issues. And the big thing is to answer the question, are they the guardians of democracy? There's no right and wrong answer. You just have to provide evidence for your point or your position. But with politics, what's outside information that we know is going to go into politics? Okay. When you're structuring your essay, or actually, let's go with topics first. What are topics within politics? What might you talk about?
Common man.
Okay, the idea of the common man is going to be a big one. With the common man, how elections changed. And with that, what did Jackson's party do to help that? You know, how did campaigns change? How did those types of things change? What else when Jackson came into office changed? He did something different that people hadn't done before. We kind of talked about this back.
He didn't. Did he not? No,
He
I think
didn't even try to
I
negotiate
think it's
with people.
both,
It was his way. It's his way only.
It is his way, and when people disagreed with him, he got rid of them. That was part of his spoil system. Spoil system or rotation of office holders. Okay? I think this is where we said document A gets put in. But then the other thing you have to talk about too is the long-term impact of this. Long-term impact of the spoil system is people just started trying to campaign to get a person elected so they could get a job. And then they expected a handout. Well, in the 1870s, 1880s, this idea of what they called patronage or the spoil system is so out of hand and so out of whack that it resulted in the death of the president, James Garfield. He was shot by a deranged office seeker who wanted the vice president to take over because he believed Charles Arthur would give him a job. The guy was nuts. He ended up in jail. And so this created so many problems that long term they had to do civil service reform. They passed what they called the Pendleton Act, which basically made you take tests to get government jobs. So in some ways Jackson championed the common man. He got more people involved, but the downside was they got involved for the wrong reasons. They just wanted a job. They didn't want to actually make a difference. They just wanted to get some money. So with politics, it becomes a tricky one because you've got to really hit on the changes that are happening in American society, the changes with the voting qualifications. You know, what is Jackson doing with that? Then with economics. Okay, within economics, you know, what's one of the big topics? Okay. You could use the Maysville Road in that. The bank. The bank is probably the biggest topic. Because he sees it as an evil that needs to be wiped out because he really believes it's hurting people. The banks are not loaning money with the intent to help people. They're loaning money with the intent to make a profit, which goes back to the whole thing. When the bank was set up, it had private investors as well as the federal government, so its job was to make a profit. But this goes back to the question about guardians. Is he really trying to act as a guardian, or is he doing it because the bank was a personal issue to him? The other thing with politics too. You could talk about in 1824, no, in 1828, no, 24. Wait. No, it is 1828. In 1828, negative campaigns. Because what did they accuse Jackson's wife of?
Get with Jackson before she was 40.
Bigamy, yeah. Being married to two men at the same time. So the election in 1828, in some ways, Jackson and Adams' campaigns lead to negative campaign ads. Campaign ads is one thing you might mention, especially about what the Adams people were accused of, about what Jackson accused them. In the pros and cons is that he got more people involved, but in some ways, long term, it might not have been the best thing, and it really had some changes and some impacts. But with the topic of the bank, you've got to talk about the panic that is going to result down the road. The Panic of 1837. Now, he doesn't deal with this, Martin Van Buren does, but Jackson created the problem. And so the bank war you're really going to have to get into, and that focuses on economics. I mean, on one hand he thinks he's acting as a guardian, and on the other hand he's not. Now, with the social constitution, what are some topics within that? We said Maysville Road, nullification, and the other big one.
Worcester versus Georgia.
Yeah, Trail of Tears. And we kind of went over those, but nullification you probably start first with, because with nullification you talk about how states want to nullify federal laws. And Jackson believes, I'm not letting you leave. You have to stay in this union. You're part of it. You don't have an out clause. And so in that way, it probably is a good thing that he's trying to keep the union together, because otherwise the country just goes separate ways. But then at the same time, when he does things with the Maysville Road, he says he does it with the best interest of the country, but in some ways that wasn't the best interest. So you could probably put Maysville Road, you could put it with economics, because he's doing something that's economically harmful. Or you could put it with nullification and link the ideas together that basically he supports the Constitution, or supports the idea that he's protecting the Constitution when it's convenient for him. Because with the Trail of Tears, what does he ignore?
Constitution.
The Constitution. He ignores it. So, in that way,
Can you use the Maysville Road in both of them?
you can, but it depends on how much detail you go into. If you use the same information and restate the same thing, it's not going to help you. If you use it to show an example, if you talk more here about the constitutionality of the Maysville Road and how he vetoed it because states shouldn't be able to, well, it wasn't the role of federal government to build roads and bridges, that was the role of the states to do those things, then that works. If you use it here to talk about economics and how it was something that hurt the country because they didn't have that road linking the different places, that works too. Again, with politics and some outside information, I'm going to give you a packet today that has outside information. In one case, in page 98 of the packet, Jackson was proposing a law which would have gotten rid of the Electoral College and put in just the popular vote. So that would have represented kind of the idea of the people's will. Like, because what could happen in this election? In this election in 2012?
Go to the house.
You could go to the House, or Romney could win the popular vote and still lose the Electoral College. Obama could win the popular vote and still lose to Romney. Romney could win the Electoral College. So one of the things Jackson was looking at was, and this is because it happened to him. What happened to him in 1824?
He was supposed to win, but he didn't because the one guy dropped out and they all just like.
Yeah. He was supposed to win, and then it went to the House, and Henry Clay supported John Quincy Adams. He didn't win. So what his idea was, his solution was, let's reform politics so the people's will gets represented. Let's just do straight up popular vote. So in that you can clearly see, like, one, it was personal to him, but I mean today, think about how much time we spend arguing about the Electoral College and whether or not it really works. You know, do we still need it? And his answer is, let's just go with that. And he has a couple quotes. The people are the government. I mean, the majority is to govern. So, the biggest thing is to, if you start like talking about positive things that maybe were happening under Jackson, and positive things, and then you go to the negative things. You know, create a new paragraph. So basically, if you talk about positive changes, like about the voter qualifications, about the primary system, then you talk about negatives. I mean, show like have positives and then have negatives, but you can do it within the same topic, like politics, but then you might just have 2 paragraphs instead of 1 in there, and that works. Because you have 2 different ideas. I mean, the biggest thing with this DBQ is to understand, like, there are pros and cons. There are good things that Andrew Jackson does, and there are bad things that Andrew Jackson does. And to be able to show that you understand those and the long-term implications. So it's a different type of essay because it's requiring balance. I mean, he's a lightning rod. Go ahead. All the changes in economics, both positive and negative. And maybe your last sentence in there, you kind of sum up the idea of politics, you know, was it a good thing? Did he get more people involved? Did more people vote because he made changes to the way things were? Or, I mean, was his ideas what caused the changes? I mean, was his idea of spoil system, even though long term it leads to political corruption, he didn't do that. It kind of just evolved that way, and then they put a stop to it. But it did get more people voting, so that could be a positive thing. I mean, people did go out and vote. I mean, in terms of economics, he thought he was protecting people from the bank. The negative, he created a financial panic in 1837. So, yes, you're in a 5-paragraph essay because you have main points, but within those main points, you can start new paragraphs, as long as you're talking about the same subject. Because that's what when the reader or when someone reads your essay, they need to be able to follow your train of thoughts. You don't want to talk about just all positive things he did and then just go to all negative things he did on different subjects. You want to stay within the same topic and talk about the positive, but then also show that you understand that they were negative consequences. And so with politics, positive, negative, you're going to have 2 paragraphs within that. Economics, you're going to have maybe some positive, maybe some negative. You got 2 paragraphs. In social, you got positive and negative. So you're going to end up with more than just 5 paragraphs, but it's really still a 5-paragraph essay because you're still on the same subjects. It's just when you switch to a different train of thought, you're going to show that different train of thought with a new paragraph. All right, we'll go over it more today too in class because we haven't talked about the Trail of Tears or the bank yet.